So you think you want to be a leader? It's nice to have that seat at the table, the important table where all the
Yeah.
cool kids are. But it takes something to be at the table. You need to have some things to offer when you get there. And so that's what we're going to talk about today. Welcome to the M Squared Leadership Conversation. It's a space where we talk honestly about the real challenges leaders face and what it actually takes to lead well in the real world. I'm Michelle Hales,
I'm Michael
and
Hales.
we're M Squared. So we're glad you're here. Thank you for joining us today. Yeah, we wanted to talk a little bit today, Michael, about what it looks like to have a seat at the table.
Hmm.
I think there are people out there that are aspiring to be leaders. They're
Sure.
not running away from it. They want to have input. They want to have a voice. They want to have a seat at the table.
And we need people like that
Absolutely.
stepping up and, walking in boldly into that kind of role.
Yeah.
We need it.
And this made me really think about something, a little talk that I gave at our church at a leadership summit that we were having. It's been several years ago now, but
Hmm.
it was, what does it look like to have a seat at the table? And we went through 4 criteria of what it might look like to have a seat at the table. I thought it might be fun if we went over those today
Let's do it.
and get a little flavor of what we used to teach way back in the day.
Yeah.
Still relevant today.
Hmm.
All right, so the first thing that you have to have a seat at the table is humility. And what that really looks like is humility is not thinking less of yourself,
Hmm.
it's thinking of yourself less. It's not being too arrogant, too cocky, not coming in too hot. It's nuanced, and it's we a lot of times today, the people who the squeaky wheel gets the oil.
Hmm.
And so the people that are loud and braggadocious and that are tooting their own horn, a lot of times it seems like they get the most attention.
Hmm.
But a seat at the table leading others is a sacred place.
Absolutely. And you mentioned already that the genesis, the origin of this content that we're covering today came from we're people of faith, and it came from us acting in those roles as people of faith in a church environment and blah, blah, blah. And I hope that you haven't tuned out now that we've said that, because you can really lay all that
Mm-hmm.
aside and the principle still
Mm-hmm.
holds. And I think this idea of humility runs very counter to a lot that's going on in our society these days. You don't see humility played up as a virtue to have,
Mm-hmm.
kind of the cool one of the cool virtues
Mm-hmm.
of leadership, but it's absolutely vital if you're going to be effective
Yeah,
as a
so
leader.
it feels like, when you're on social media and you're doom scrolling and stuff, it's the people who might get your attention are the ones who are very sure of themselves,
Absolutely.
very assertive. They've got a hot take on something
Hmm.
and
Not something, everything.
everything, and they're going at it super hard. I
Uh-huh.
mean, and they never soften that this is one way of thinking, this is
Hmm.
one way of doing things. It's like this is the way, and then they almost relish the chaos that they create in the comments, with their hot takes. And I know that that's all part of the social media algorithms, and some people are
Yeah.
doing it too for satire and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But like I said, a seat at the table, and in this instance, we're referring to leading others,
Hmm.
being part of a leadership team.
Hmm.
That's a sacred place. And the reason that it's kind of a sacred place, it's not they're better than us or we're better than you kind of thing. It's that we're leading other people. We're leading people, and people deserve to be led well.
Implied in that leadership role is the fact that you're becoming responsible for people.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I think, is the first and foremost leadership thing that has to be accounted for.
Mm-hmm.
Is it's not an entitlement. It's
Absolutely.
not a set of perks to be aspired to. It's a grave sacred responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
Whether you put it in a faith context or not,
Right.
it's a sacred responsibility because you are now responsible for other human people.
Well, if you're coming at it that you want prestige or some type of honor or some kind of accolade or, whatever, you're coming at it from the wrong way.
That's the wrong
Mm-hmm.
motivation right out of the
Mm-hmm.
gate.
Leadership really is serving others. You are
Yes.
always thinking of others. And with that, you need to have a healthy dose of humility. You've got to be humble. You've got to be open-minded, not closed-minded, not so self-sure that you can't engage and take on somebody else's thoughts and ideas to be considered.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen it so many times, that arrogance, I kind of think of arrogance as the opposite of humility.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen it so many times when a leader, thinks that they're doing well because they're being decisive and they're arrogant. It comes off in that way that just really shuts everybody down. And
Mm-hmm.
I believe that humility, when done well and done right, and not in a, oh, poor me, I don't know anything.
That's not it.
Yeah. But when it's done in, hey, I can entertain what you have to say. I can take that and consider it and make sure that it's part of our thought process.
I think as we're having this conversation, it's occurring to me that if you really embrace fully the gravity that comes with the leadership role,
Mm-hmm.
then humility gets a lot easier.
Absolutely. Yes.
I have to take this seriously. This is not a game.
Mm-hmm.
This is people's lives that now I'm responsible for, not literally, but
Mm-hmm.
you, as a leader, you have a big effect, believe it or not only on your people's work lives, but their personal lives as well. And that gives you a healthy dose of, oh my goodness, I've got to get this right.
Mm-hmm.
And it helps you dial back that hubris
Mm-hmm.
a little bit, that
Mm-hmm.
arrogance that you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Like, none of us has it all figured out.
No.
We're all in this thing together.
Absolutely.
And some of us, are a little more put together, a little better equipped to lead.
Mm-hmm.
But none of us are there. We haven't arrived
Mm-hmm.
yet.
Yeah, and I've heard it said, and you can probably quote this better than me. I've heard you quote it, but a sign of intelligence is being able to, take in and harbor two opposing thoughts at the same time without going crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Know that it's there.
You have to do that a lot as a leader.
Absolutely.
Because things are not always
Mm-hmm.
nearly as cut and dried as we would like them to be.
For sure.
There's a lot of gray areas.
Mm-hmm. And so even if you're not at the table yet and you want to be there, start practicing humility in everything you do.
Start building
even if it's
now.
with a coworker. We all kind of have, or a lot of us do, have that competitive edge at work.
Sure.
We want to make sure we're performing well and, don't want somebody outperforming us, but be willing to let, other team members have a win.
Yeah, don't suck up all the oxygen in
Exactly.
every room that you go into.
Absolutely. Okay, so that first one was humility. We'll move on because we're going to try to do these quickly. The second one is trust. And so, I think about this as, the people that I want to have at my dinner table in my home.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a safe place for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want somebody there that I can't trust. Somebody that I'm unsure of has my goodwill in their heart.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want ill intent to be at my table when I'm having, when I'm nourishing myself.
Yeah.
And the people that I do fellowship with, I want to know that I want to have a level of trust with them, that they're not there, to do evil.
Yeah.
And I know that's a little bit of a strong term.
But I think it's apropos for this because there are so many people out there. We see it, and it's been said when people show you who they are, believe them. And I've had quite a few people show me who they are, and it's not somebody that you want at your table.
Right. And so if you're trying to get to the table or you're already there, trust is a really big issue. And what that might look like is dependability, integrity, just doing the right thing, even if it's hard or inconvenient, doing what you said you would do when you said you would do it.
You're demonstrating that you're a person who can be trusted.
Absolutely. And we're not going to stay on trust forever because, trust is needed in every aspect of our life, our relationships. It can't be overstated how important trust is on a team. I mean, people write books about it.
It's fundamental to leadership. It really is. If you think about the leadership relationship, the leadership implies that there's somebody behind you following behind. And how well and how consistently and how much are you really going to follow somebody that you can't trust?
Right.
You're not going to do it. You're only going to do it if you're forced to, if you have no other option. As soon as an option comes along, you're out of there. You're not going to follow that person.
And I think about in the workplace in particular, so many times trust is broken when there's not consistency, when we play favorites,
And when there's lack of communication.
we don't follow through, or we play to our personalities rather than what's really fair. Just because you don't like someone's personality or they rub you the wrong way, you may say they have this rule for them. But then your friend who you get along with pretty well or someone that you're leading, they're easy to lead. So you may give them a little more leeway or a little more, or they're just hard to deal with. So you'll let them break the rules or you'll let them get by with things that you won't let your top performer get by with. This is where trust is built. When you are willing to face the hard issues head on, when you're consistent, when you're fair. And as a leader, that's how you can build trust. But when you're at the table with other leaders and maybe your strategy or you're working in the company and you're the department head, you've got other department heads in there, you've got to up your game with your humility and your trust with those leaders that are around the table. You've not only got to lead the department well, you've got to lead your peers well. There's 360-degree leadership going on all the time. And so you've got to be able to have that trust built in with those leaders as well so that you can accomplish the mission.
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on. So this next one, when I did the talk years ago at the church, this one was considered, or I titled it Wholeness. And I wanted really badly to try to name it something else for this podcast and in this situation. I can't come up with anything better. It's important that as a person, we're working on ourselves and we're taking care of wounds.
Yes.
We all have wounds. We all have brokenness, whether that's, through childhood trauma or just the heartaches of life, things that have hit us wrong. But you can't allow that to go untreated, untended,
undiagnosed.
You've got to let it eventually become a scar that can tell a story.
Yeah.
It can't stay an open wound
forever.
And where I've seen that play out is just somebody is angry. Somebody has anger in their heart. And it's not particularly directed to the people at work.
but it'll manifest
It will
on those
manifest
people.
itself.
Yep.
Anger will pop up quickly.
Yep.
And that's with any emotions or trauma or heartache that's come into our life.
Mm-hmm.
It will manifest. So it's really important to be self-aware and make sure that we're tending to those wounds.
As we were doing a little prep for this show and talking about trying to put our heads together and come up for a synonym for wholeness that we never did really do, the one thing that came to me, I think wholeness is a little bigger than this, but certainly one component of it is emotional intelligence.
For sure.
And you just said it, self-awareness. That's the first component of emotional intelligence. You've got to be aware of what's going on in your own life, in your own heart, your own psyche, the neural pathways that have formed in your brain, all of those things, and how they don't make you do stuff. We choose. We have free will.
We get to choose our reactions.
But they influence you to maybe behave in ways that are, if you could take an objective look at it, you could admit that that's not really the most productive way I could have handled that situation. It's our buttons. What buttons do I have that are prone to be pushed and make me, again, influence me to do something that I really shouldn't have, that I should have made a better choice in that moment, but I was so emotionally charged and overcome that I made a bad choice.
And we don't have time here, but we did a whole series on self-limiting beliefs and the things that force us to have these ideas about ourselves that break down our confidence, that break down our decision making and get us stuck in these ruts.
And don't be fooled. We all have them.
Absolutely.
If you are not aware of any that you have, you probably need to do some more self-reflecting, because we've all got them.
Yeah, or if you can't diagnose them, then you probably have a blind spot about it. And we all have blind spots, and you need a trusted friend, coach, someone like that can help you in a loving way uncover some of those.
Just one more quick thing on this. You mentioned trauma a while ago, and I think we probably all have our own internal definition of what trauma means, and usually we equate it to something horrible that happened to us, maybe as a child, or having come through combat or something like that, and certainly that fits the bill. But in conversation with a guy I was talking to just earlier today, he was recommending a book to me, and I haven't read it yet, but he said this author goes deeper on what trauma really is, and I don't remember the definition that he said, but it's something that we could apply. We've all been through stuff that has affected us in ways that can fairly be classified as traumatic. And they're not all as dramatic as some trauma instances, but we've all had it. And it's a matter, in many cases, of course, there are some cases when I went through this traumatic thing and it's affected me, it shaped me, and I need to deal with that. But a lot more often, it's more subtle, and we are not even fully aware that we went through that and that it affected us the way it did, and that's something that we need to deal with. And I think coming to some kind of awareness that there may be something there that I need to deal with, and doing what it takes to get at that might be really important for a lot of us.
So if someone accidentally bumps you on the elbow and it hurts you really badly, that should not happen.
That's an indication something's wrong with that elbow.
Something is wrong with the elbow. Yeah. And you need to get it seen about. That's the same way when you have strong reactions to things. You're easily offended. You find yourself offended all day long by things people are saying or doing. These are indications that there's not a wholeness, that there's things that need to be addressed. And with the different trauma, and not to get too nerdy, but And like if it was in computer terms, it's almost like you need to defrag, and you need to take all these little files that are floating around out there, bring them in, examine them, put them in a file, put them in the file cabinet, and close the door.
Yep.
That way they can be appropriately looked at. But if you've not processed all of those
They're
little
just
things that are
floating
floating
around
out
there
there,
and could pop up at
they
any
will.
time and derail what it
And
is you're trying to do.
and make your whole computer not run smoothly like it
Yep.
should. Yeah. Okay. So the next one and the final one is what you need to bring to the table is some competence. So even if you're trustworthy and you're super humble and
Just the
you're
best
just the
person.
best person in the world, but you're not competent, then you're not going to lead well. You've got to have the competence. Now, the good thing is, competence is built. It's something that you work on. So, you know, I this is my story, and I hate to, you know, harp on myself or anything, but it's my story, and I'm the one that can tell it the best. But it, you know, probably about 25 years ago, I started working in the legal field, and I really didn't have a lot to offer. I was hardworking, I was loyal, but I knew nothing about what I was going to do, and I just went in. I went in as a temp to this law firm, and they let me know right away they were not hiring permanent employees. They had already reached their quota. They were not hiring. And I was like, okay, I'm just, you know, happy to have a job. I want to learn this skill set. I was getting a degree at the time in paralegal studies and just wanted to be in the environment. And I was such a hard worker and kept watching people and learning from people that seemed to be competent and learning and asking questions and growing, along with being dependable and showing up on time and humble and kind and smiling and trustworthy and those sort of things. That within 2 weeks they, you know, they were like, okay, we're going to want you to be a permanent employee. We're going to try to get permission to do this. And within just a few more weeks, they had brought me on as a permanent employee. And then within about 6 months of working there, I was actually a supervisor over about 25 people.
You earned your seat at the table.
I did. I earned my seat at the table, but not just because I was nice and friendly and could come in and punch some buttons. It was asking questions. It was having that hunger to develop myself and learn more and to grow. And we have to all be working on ourselves.
I remember this. I remember when this happened. And one of the things I'd like to add to your story is you demonstrated your value and your worth by they were working with a database and entering all sorts of data into a database. And yeah, you were one of the fastest at coding the data and one of the most diligent workers, and you demonstrated your worth and your productivity, but you also demonstrated it in really developing a good understanding of how this works and why are we even doing this. That a lot of people maybe wouldn't have gone that far and wouldn't have cared enough, honestly, to even be curious about that.
Yeah,
And I
so
think that goes with it too. Understanding, trying to get an understanding of the bigger picture and
Right.
what's this all about.
Exactly. So first I was just curious. I wanted to know more about the database, and then I was like, well, if we do this, then this, and started putting, you know, the pieces together. And before long, I was being invited into the room with letterhead attorneys, you know, the names that were on the wall outside, being invited into the room with them to work on the strategy with what we were doing with this data. So it was very rewarding, but it's just, you know, so many times we think, well, I'm a good old person, you know, I should, you know, I love people, I want to lead people, but there's a lot that you've got to know and understand and be able to take on the bigger picture. And the easiest way you can do that, there was a book, Become the Obvious Choice. And if you're wanting a promotion, if you're wanting a seat at the table to get into leadership, make yourself the obvious choice.
Yeah.
Start learning every single thing that you can. And What does that look like? How do you start learning when you think you're ask questions, be curious,
It's not that
read a
complicated.
book, listen to a podcast, join our leadership lab.
Yeah.
Start getting around people that have a growth mindset, and before long you'll be growing at an exponential rate.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take a lot to stand out because so many people are pushing the buttons and punching the clock and going home and vegging out on their phone and Netflix or whatever, and they're not taking on any outside activities outside of work to grow themselves.
They're not invested in their own growth.
They're not. And just like with the wholeness part of it, there's things you've got to do to work on healing that wound. You got to get to it. It doesn't feel good. It's uncomfortable. Anytime you're feeling uncomfortable, you're right on track.
Yep.
Growth is uncomfortable. Healing is uncomfortable. A lot of times you'll know when a wound is healing because it starts getting itchy, starts getting tight, and it's a little uncomfortable. That's good. That's what it's taking. And being able to tag when I'm growing. Hey, I know something I didn't know.
Tag it and lean into it.
Absolutely. And, build on it. So that's really good. So do you have anything else to say about that before I jump to a little final close-up thing?
I think I'm good.
Okay. So one of the things that I read one time is speed is the enemy of intimacy. And so I think about having that seat at the table. It's an intimate setting. We're not trying to say that we're special if you're in a leadership position.
Right.
But it's an intimate place. As you start leading others, it does kind of get lonely, and you will have to make some separation from being everybody's pal and that sort of thing. And the reason that I want to bring up that speed is the enemy of intimacy is that you never want to force yourself to the table, rush too quickly to the table, and despise the growth and the things that it takes to be ready for a seat at the table. And
you talk about an uncomfortable place to be.
Oh my gosh.
You bully your way up to the table and then figure out, ooh, I don't really belong here.
Or worse,
I'm in over
you
my
come
head.
and you bully yourself there and then have to be asked to leave the table because you're not, competent enough to be at the table.
Yes.
So there's lots of biblical principles about that and scriptures that talk about being weighted. Don't go and sit in a place of honor. Wait and come to be invited to that seat.
Yeah.
And we're not always saying just wait until somebody invites you to be a leader, but become the obvious choice. Develop yourself before you ever have the opportunity. When opportunity knocks, it's too late to prepare.
Yep.
You've got to be ready. Just make yourself the obvious choice.
And there's a lot, I think, that has to do with how you carry yourself during that waiting.
Yes.
That says a lot about who you are and how you're going to behave when you get to that table.
Absolutely. And I can't really say a lot about it, but I know that there's an opportunity for me at some point. And it's not promised, but I know that I'm wanted in an opportunity. It's not manifested itself yet. And I think I'm ready and I need to take that next step when it's available. But if I walk around now mad because they're not giving it to me or they're not making the opportunity ready for me now, then that's going to prove that I'm not ready for that.
You're making the argument that you're not ready.
Right. So, yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just wanted to say thank y'all for joining us today. Hopefully you got a couple of little tidbits out of this as you're getting ready to develop yourself and getting ready for that seat at the table. All right, so thanks for spending a few minutes with us in the M² leadership conversation. Leadership isn't about having all the answers. It's about being willing to ask better questions. So until next time, stay curious, lead well, and keep the conversation going.